The following show is for entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions presented are the opinions of the hosts. The information or statements presented here are not known facts.
Did we get on that? I had one.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. You've seen me do comic reviews. You have seen me do movie reviews. You've seen me do weapon reviews. You've seen me do all stats reviews, whole lot of shit. As you can see, I'm here with a very beautiful young lady. Her name is Gina. Say hello, Gina.
Hello, everyone.
We're going to be talking about this new show. There's a lot of hardcore stuff on the Hardcore channel. This is Hardcore Conspiracies. Now, I know what you're thinking. Conspiracies are silly. Now, some of them I think are silly. Her and I are going to agree on some. Her and I are going to disagree on some. There's one that we want to talk about because we're coming up on the anniversary. I know it's been done before. That's okay, because you might get another perspective. We're talking about the events of September 11th, 9/11. The Twin Towers, the airplanes hitting it. So the first thing I want to say to Gina is, where were you when that first plane and second plane, I guess, where were you when it hit? What was the first thing you saw, first thing that went through your mind?
Well, I remember I was at home. I had a toddler at the time. My mother-in-law actually called me because she worked at the base along with my father-in-law. And her reaction was she was screaming, saying they hit the Twin Towers. And I'm like, what do you mean who? I'm like, who they? What are you talking about? And so turned on the news right away. And just as we turned on the news, we were actually able to see that second plane hit that second tower. So it was quite a disturbing morning. I remember there was just a lot of chaos, a lot of phone calls, a lot of panic, neighbors coming outside talking to one another. It was pretty surreal.
I happened to be at work, a job I had like a long time ago. And I remember, and I have no problem saying this fat pile of shit that sat in front of me was like, man, a plane hit the World Trade Center. And so I'm like logging on to MSNBC. And the first thing I think is like, some jackass, just, a guy just flying a plane, like, this fucking idiot went too low or something like that. And then I'm leaving it on, and all at once there's like braking, and then another one hits. And then it's like, okay, something's going on.
Yeah.
Now, did you think like right away? And then a few minutes later, you hear about this one that we'll talk about later. It hits the Pentagon. Did you think that right away when the second one hit and you watched it, you said, did you know something was up?
I felt we were under attack. I mean, there was nothing really being said. There was no real information being posted at the time. There was no social media at the time. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have all of these, other avenues where you could look at to find out information. All you had was, your 19-inch, color TV in your living room in 2001. So it would just really, you were completely immersed in just what was on your local news channels. I think at the time, the only really news channel that wasn't your local was just CNN. I mean, that was the only thing you really had. And, they just kept replaying the plane that they had on video. And then they were showing people running into different stores, running for cover, people down the street, interviewing different people at the time. There wasn't really any clear, I guess, idea of what happened. I mean, was it just like some random dude, like you said? But when you have two that hit everyone kept thinking we're under attack by some other countries. I guess what we were all assuming at the time.
Now, it took about probably 4 or 5 minutes to figure out who was behind it, which was Al Qaeda, bin Laden primarily, because he had tried to bomb us before by planning I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like a truck full of explosives, and he parked it in the World Trade Center, like parking garage. But then you start to hear about another plane hit the Pentagon, which sadly enough, I mean, that might be something it's become a very big afterthought. And then you hear the other plane comes down, and that's because and I hate to say this because I don't want to sound like I'm discrediting anything. The passengers, they had enough, and they took care of everybody on the plane, and they brought it down. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but you hear about this, but then you start to hear as the days and weeks unfold. And and big credit, I want to give big credit to Howard Stern. Howard Stern is the only radio host to stay on the air. Only radio host in the United States to stay on the air from beginning to end of this. Like, he did not leave and go to emergency broadcast. He stayed. He had people that were there. I give him all the credits. If you go to YouTube, type in Howard Stern 9/11, it's so good to hear it as it unfolds. But then we hear it unfold. And then, unfortunately, now I want to say it's awesome because one thing it did do that was really good. It kind of united all of us. Like, there was flags flying everywhere, and like, the terrorists didn't win. It was like, fuck you, terrorists. We are now this fuck you. You shouldn't have messed with us. That was great. But then as things go and they start to unravel, you start to hear things, you start to think. And here's the first thing I'm going to hit you with. These towers were built a long time ago, and they're built to withstand, a lot, like atomic bomb, a lot. And a plane kind of collapsed. And then, you start to get the documentaries like that. No offense if you like him. I personally am not a fan of Michael Moore. I hate Michael Moore. He did the Fahrenheit 9/11. He was the first one to really get it cooking, 9/11 documentary. But do you think that now that you're thinking about it, this is months later, this didn't happen in the beginning. Do you think that a plane could hit one of these steel structures and blow it to smithereens within what? I mean, a thing hit at about 8-9 o'clock in the morning, our time where we live, and by 2 o'clock we're watching it go dum 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 dum. What's your take?
My opinion, no.
Your opinion?
No, I absolutely, I can't, I myself cannot buy into that a plane was able to, I don't care, jet fuel, whatever, heat, fire, whatever. I cannot really, in my right mind, think that a jet could have done that damage and made those buildings implode the way they did.
It just doesn't seem practical. I mean, there's a certain level of heat you have to get. And I know you've done a lot of research into this. Here's the one thing that a lot of people kind of forgot. What were they doing with 9/11 about 2 weeks before all this transpired?
Well, there was some construction going on within the building. Just 6 weeks prior, I believe, to the attacks, the buildings were leased by Larry Silverstein. He won, I guess, the highest bid on the seven building complex. It was like a 99-year lease that he got, and he paid like 3.2, I can't remember if it was 3.2 million or $1 billion that he had paid for it. And he actually insured it for, I think, $5 billion with a terrorism policy attached to his insurance just 6 weeks before. I know there was some construction going on, some renovations or whatnot that were you're told by eyewitnesses that had worked there, visitors, whatnot, that there were some different things that were going on. I know there was some speculation or people talking about that there was a lot of elevator work going on at the time. So, I mean, could somebody have gone in and put explosives down the elevator shaft to make that happen? You know, I'm no demolition expert. I know that these things take weeks, you know, sometimes months to plan out. But it just seems to me that, you know, there was time to do that.
Well, see, now I've always personally thought that there was in the paint, or maybe not the paint, maybe they didn't paint it. We don't know, because you couldn't get down there, you couldn't enter it. You can put chemicals inside stuff, paint a wall, and when it hits, boom, 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 boom. But yeah, I've never, and I know they say, oh, well, it's scientifically proven that a plane could melt it. I mean, they built these things knowing that if a plane hit it, just like I said, my first thought was some jackass plane, just his normal plane hit it. These things were built they were built to withstand this. They weren't built, if you hit it, and I could see you destroying like the first, the top layers, but it's not good. Watch a video of any building and it goes like Jenga.
Yep.
Watch this. It doesn't go like pow, pow, bang, bang. It goes boom. Pardon my bad sound effects, but it just doesn't seem right to me. It really doesn't.
No, not at all. You would think that if this was just a normal plane hitting a building and you had collapse, you would have some uneven collapsing. You'd have the building toppling over to the side, something from where the plane hit, from one side, the other side seemed to be, okay at the time until, fires broke out and whatnot. Just the way that they so evenly came down, all three of the buildings that collapsed that day, all came down pretty precisely. I know there's a lot of architects and engineers who have, really touched on that same subject, that they came down in such a fashion that is really consistent with demolition and the way explosives are put into buildings for demolition. So,
well, another thing that's weird to me now, you're better at names than me, because some of the shit's at names. The person that owned the Trade Center, tell me again what his name was.
Oh, Larry Silverstein.
Okay, he had an insurance policy taken out. I believe terrorism was part of this just a few weeks before.
Yeah,
now,
about 6 weeks before.
Let's say we're just talking normal homicide. Let's say me and you were married. And you have a life insurance policy worth $400 million. You mysteriously should, pass under circumstances. Yeah. And I'm going to get all that money. Nobody looked into that. He takes his policy out. A few weeks later, boom, 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 boom. He gets all the money. Now, people will argue, no, you're lying, you're stupid. It was tied up in court. Well, of course it's tied up in court. Everything's tied up in court for years and years. At the end of the day, I'm not talking like he got 100 grand. He got billions and billions, $4.37 billion. Now, that seems odd to me. How about you?
Yeah, very odd. And there's also conspiracy theories going around that that maybe this was all just an act to, blame it on Al-Qaeda, and really, or maybe they used these buildings as a kind of a cover-up because the buildings were actually they had asbestos in it that to today's standards is illegal to have. And even at that time it was going to need to eventually be cleaned up. And in order to get rid of that asbestos, or to, tear down and rebuild with that asbestos in there, because it takes a special type of removal to have done, that it would have cost more to remove that asbestos or rebuild those buildings due to that asbestos than it cost for them to purchase them. It would have, to me, it would have turned out to be a bad purchase. So did he blow up his buildings because, he couldn't afford to, do the renovations, or it was kind of an upside down deal? I don't know. Or was it, something used to cover up, in cahoots with someone, hey, I've got these buildings, hey, I've got this problem. Hey, if you want to fix your problem and you want to help me fix my problem, you just don't know.
Now, the thing that I found the most suspicious, let's say, and I keep going into, let me state real quick before our respective husbands or wives get upset. She's married, but not to me. She's married to another guy. I'm married to another lady. Okay, so, but I keep using this as examples. Let's say you and I are married and you stab me. You do some kind of like burning bed shit or something. You kill me. Okay, I'm dead. Now, the first thing you're going to do is interview the witnesses. We're going to talk to your kids. We're going to talk to your husband. We're going to talk to any family member that's still around. Now, at the time of this, a lot of the Iraqi, bin Laden especially, the family was in New York. And President Bush, I had no respect for you, Junior. President Bush says, we got to get these guys out of here. And we got to get them out of here for their safety, because they could be targets of hate crimes. And I was, okay, I'll buy into that. What you're doing by taking all these people and flying them away is you're getting rid of the witnesses. And that's the first thing that bothered me. You're taking all the witnesses and you're getting rid of them. That was the first thing that bothered me. Now, let me ask you the second thing that bothered me right away. And I'm a big fan of the guy. Big shout out to Steve Buscemi, my man, who in the 90s I thought was living under my bed because he was in every movie ever made. He was he used to be a fireman, and he went out and he's, shoveling, he's saving people. First thing this happens, boom, 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 boom. We go out there with our shovels and we're shoveling all this stuff. We're getting rid of the debris. We're getting everything. We're clearing the fucking crime scene. Yeah. Okay, so now you've let the witnesses go. Now people can say, okay, we're two crazy people. You've just let every witness fly out of the country. Now they're diplomatic immunity or whatever. They're not a country. No, what's the word I'm looking for? Dom Toretto said it in Fast and Furious 7. No. Fuck, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, no extradition.
How's the life of the retired international criminal?
I like it here. It's quiet. Nice weather. And no extradition.
Dom Toretto knows. So there's no extradition. You've flown away all your witnesses, and now you're taking all the evidence and you're throwing it in the fucking junkyard.
Yeah.
Now we don't care at the time. We're going to build this monument. It's going to shine a light. Looking back at it, how fucking dumb was that?
Oh, that was the biggest mistake. There was like 400 truckloads that were taken out in the very beginning, and they were taken to China for recycling. And, a lot of the people who came in to do some of the investigation, these engineers, architects, different people who were, hired to come in to, take a secondary look, or probably even in the insurance companies, they all were just amazed. They were like, wait a minute, you just took all of this debris, all of this evidence, and you shipped it to China for recycling. That's where we get, the story. All of that evidence, everything that's in that rubble, tells a story of what happened. And, there was this like nanothermite or thermite or whatever that is used for explosives that some people were coming across when they were still doing the cleanup. And some of the other, higher ups were saying, no, that probably came from residue from equipment that was brought in from other demo sites, and it surely didn't come from these buildings. They weren't imploded. There was no explosives used. That material must have been something that was left over on equipment or something contaminated from other equipment that may have been used in another demo at one time. I find that very far-fetched. So no, the fact that they were shoveling everything out, transporting it, to another country, not really allowing the full investigation, I feel, to take place, and other experts, feel. I mean, that did the public here a disservice.
One of the things I want to say, and I'm going to take off my sunglasses. Jesse the Body, everybody knows I'm a wrestling fan. Sid Copeland, Radar superstar. Jesse the Body Ventura was the governor. He's a smart man. He actually interviewed, this is how serious I am, fans. I'm going to put on my actual reading glasses. Jesse the Body Ventura interviewed a janitor at the World Trade Center named William Rodriguez. Now, William Rodriguez had a master key. He rescued many, many people, and he even got honored by the White House as a national hero. Now, he said before the American Airline Flight 11 struck the tower, the North Tower at 8:46, that the building rocked so hard it pushed up. This is before the plane hit. Now, he even testified behind closed doors to the 9/11 Commission. His name was never mentioned in the report, but he gave the commission and the FBI a list of 14 people who he'd been with. Not a single one was ever, nobody of these people were ever contacted. He even gave his boss his name. And he said he's on the no-fly list now. This guy went back in to save people, and he's put on a no-fly list. That's bullshit. But he said it went down before we ever reported it went down. Now, I mean, I think that's wrong, but now I'm going to hit you with a hard question as I put my sunglasses back on. The plane that hit the Pentagon, nobody gives a shit about. I'm not going to pretend I do. The other plane that went down, tell me, and we'll see if we agree. Tell me what you think happened.
Flight 93.
Sure, I don't know. I just know it was part of a Nicolas Cage movie. That's all I know. But yeah, I have my very
Where the passengers rushed the what do you want to call it? The pilot's cabin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of conspiracy behind whether that was really a real thing. But I mean, there have been people who claim that they were contacted by their loved ones when the plane was going down, or that they knew people had box cutters or whatnot, and that these Muslims that they thought had taken over the plane. I don't know what to believe on that part. I'm thinking you do have some reports where someone thought they saw a plane in the area that maybe it was shot down. I know that was part of their protocol, that they were actually going to have any other plane that might have been hijacked at the time shot down, but they claimed that it wasn't, because the report didn't go out in time for that flight. But honestly, I didn't dive deep enough into that particular, part of the 9/11.
Oh man, I muted my camera. Okay. So my thing with that, which is the first thing that always, and I remember I was getting tattooed a few weeks later. And let's say this is the plane. Plane's going. Now, if I'm the guy, and I'm gonna tell you what, if I'm on a plane and you wave a box cutter at me, I'm beating your fucking ass. Okay, I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I'm beating your ass. It's fucking box cutter. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Now let's say the plane is going, and I take it over and I beat up the guy, and we might go bam. Now, I'm using really great examples here. Now let's say the plane is flying and the Pentagon goes, oh shit, those guys could be terrorists. Bam! And they shoot us. This top part, picture this black part, this is the nose of the plane. Okay, when you shoot a plane down, I don't claim to be an engineer, but you shoot a plane down, this thing is going over here. It's going to go where, sorry, everything's reversed. This is going to go where the stars are if you shoot it down. And the plane is going to go over here where the flag is. I think, this is my opinion, they were like, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone on the plane, none whatsoever. I truly believe this was crap. This thing's going to hit something. Let's shoot it down. And instead of saying, hey, you know what, we shot a plane down with like 300 American, people, let's make them all heroes. This ain't the boys. This ain't like Homelander blasting a plane. This is, let's make them heroes. It's a nice story. I like the story.
Mhm.
I really think that's what happened. I mean, how else did it not just go, burp? How did a nose end up over here and a plane end up over here? It just,
Yeah.
something about it. And I hate to be that guy. I'm not that guy. It's been said before, but it just seems suspect to me. It just really does.
Yeah. I heard there was debris that was scattered for many miles, that the trajectory of the plane and how it hit and whatnot, that there shouldn't have been certain parts that landed in certain areas before the other. So there's that speculation with that. Just doesn't seem like that particular incident got as much, what do you call it? I'm sorry, attention. It didn't get as much attention as the others did.
It did get a Marvel comic book, though.
Did it?
Let me apologize for my barking dogs. Not like you haven't heard them before. My other thing is I asked my wife to bring me more beer. My other thing, now, did you watch? I stated earlier, I hate Michael Moore. I fucking hate that guy. Did you watch the documentary he did, Fahrenheit 9/11?
I think I may have many, many years ago. Honestly, I don't remember much of it.
Here's my logic. Okay, Michael Moore's a big fat guy. Okay, I'm not exactly skinny, but Michael Moore's a guy that wears jeans and a hat. And everybody's like, he's one of us. He wears jeans and a hat. No, he's not one of you. He makes $20 million a movie. He's definitely not one of you. He made a movie called Fahrenheit 9/11. It's primarily about George Bush Jr., who I'm also not the biggest fan of, but they do this whole, and this is where I kind of get into the propaganda that we deal with 9/11 of when George Bush was reading. What was he reading? Was it like the Pretty Petting Goat or something like that? He was reading a book to the kids. I don't remember.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And and Michael Moore is doing this voiceover. He's like, look at this idiot. He's just reading a book. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. The buildings have been blown up. I could make that same documentary and you could see Bush reading his book and I go, look at that. Look at how cool George Bush is. He's reading that book because he don't want to scare these youngsters. Which is one of the reasons I hate Michael Moore. One of the many reasons I can't stand him. But how do you think Bush, other than flying out the witnesses, how do you think he handled this whole situation?
I don't know. I don't think he handled it very well. Going back to that classroom scene, I don't know if you ever saw that video of the teacher and the lesson that she was teaching at the time that like right before the I think the first plane hit, there was like some words that she was doing on a lesson. I don't know if it was before the book was being read, but it was a little bit interesting. It's something that you should look up. But I honestly, I don't know if this whole attack had anything to do with oil, another war they wanted to either stay in or be in. As far as George Bush, honestly, I I don't have a big opinion on how he handled things.
I love America. I think people that have followed me for years know I love America. I refuse to believe that my country really from the higher ups was a part of it. I don't know. I might be wrong. I hate to believe it, but a lot of evidence points to that. I don't think we had anything to do with it, but I think there had been some tip-offs. Like let's look at this point now. And I might be wrong. Forgive me, NORAD. I don't know. So a plane is going off course. A plane is supposed to be going here. Well, this plane's going here. Now, I've been in air traffic control. My wife is friends with some scag whose husband works in air traffic control. Now, this plane's going off. Oh, okay. Maybe this one plane is gonna pass. Maybe. It's this plane. This plane. This plane. This is 4 planes all going in different directions. Now they say, well, we didn't scramble because we were doing war games at the time. Sure, we do war games all the time. That's possible. Somebody had to have told somebody that we were. It just seems. I know you hear the term the perfect storm. This is a lot to say. All went for the terrorists. All this went right. Somebody had to say. Somebody either had to say, "Look, they're doing war games." Or I shouldn't even say war games. So we're doing some procedures. We're not going to be monitoring the airlines. Somebody either had to tip you off to that, or somebody had to know what was going on.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. And it makes me sad to say it, actually.
Yeah. I guess there were some, like pre-attack warnings, I guess between the United States by Al Qaeda, but they were ignored. I guess there was some miscommunication between various law enforcements and the intelligence personnel, which, I mean, that kind of sounds familiar. We just had one of those incidents. We got lack of communication, I mean, this is a big lack of communication. And I guess they were, trying to state that because there were so many scandals, that started some law that they passed back in the 70s that prevented, abuses of scandals, that they just, failed to have some type of imagination to know that there was actually something really going to transpire. But, the delay, just, cause the inevitable. We now have this, horrible tragedy and a lot of questions that are unanswered. And, I mean, it really goes down to, I mean, were people really held accountable for the lack of communication? I don't know if they were held, to me, accountable for that lack of communication.
Forgot to unmute my button. I've been drinking. So I guess 9/11 is always going to remain a mystery. Now, we all know, at least in our opinions, it was a little fugazi, so to speak. I'm not really Italian. I just use Italian words, but I want to take a few minutes to actually say, Gina, I've known Gina for a long time, and I'm an old motherfucker. So that tells you I've known her for a long time. She was very nervous about doing this, but I said, just be yourself. Now I got to ask you, I'm going to ask you for the fans. You didn't know I was going to ask this. How do you think you did?
I think I did okay. At least you didn't ask me for any specific dates, times, and scientific names of anything. But no, it was good.
Now, I wouldn't ask this person if I thought she was a bumbling, stumbling fuck. Because one thing that you know about me is I can talk over people. But I want to say this was 9/11. This was done because we're never going to know. It's like Bigfoot. even though the guy said Bigfoot is bullshit, you're never going to know. You're always going to guess.
No.
We got a lot of other things, though. Now, we're not always going to agree on things. I might say something and she goes, God, you dumb, bald fuck. What are you talking about? That's fine. That's what this is. Not everybody agrees on things. She's going to hit me with some stuff that I go, what the fuck? Come on, dummy. That's just how it works. But now I'm going to give you a tease. Tease what's coming up. And this is what her and I agree on. Do you think the Statue of Liberty is really a monument to Satan? I'm saying Satan because not everybody knows what Lucifer is. I might agree on this. There's a lot of things. Is the moon landing fake?
Yes.
Kennedy? Is there a man on the grassy knoll? Is there something in the water? Are aliens coming down and fucking us with Benoit balls? You know, if that was the thing, you know, I'd let an alien like maybe, you know, anyway, that's beside the point. There's lots of things out there that you might not agree with. You might think it might be stupid to you, it might not be stupid to others. But let us know what you think. I want you to hit the like button. I want you to hit the subscribe button. I want you to tune in every week to see what we're going to talk about, because you never know what it's going to be. But I can tell you that next week is about the Statue of Liberty. Jan, give them a tease what the Statue of Liberty is going to be all about.
Is it Satan? Is it a woman? Is it a man? What does it really symbolize?
I've seen The Devil's Advocate, and now when I see the Statue of Liberty, I picture Al Pacino going, "Wah!" like he did in the movie Devil's Advocate with my favorite actor who can't act, Mr. Keanu Reeves, who I'd like to have on one day. One day, people are going to answer me, Mr. Keanu Reeves. But a lot of strange things. What I'm saying is, do you remember that old radio AM show, Coast to Coast?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Now, some of the stuff this guy talked about was some dumbass shit. Like, there's fucking molten men and Eagle Islands and everything. And that's pretty dumb, but you can explain everything. I work with a guy. Unfortunately, I have a job. He's a weirdo. And he thinks that fallen angels are coming from the fucking middle of the earth attacking teenagers in malls. We're not going to get that dumb. I mean, we can. Like, I used to read the weekly. Do you remember the Weekly World News? Remember that magazine that your grandma or your mom probably read?
Yeah, like the Inquirer.
Yeah, where it's
My
like,
grandmother used to have stacks of them next to her bed at night. And I was like, Grandma, why do you read these? And she goes, to help me fall asleep.
see, now my grandfather was fucking crazy. He's like goddamn Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black. Oh, this is where the real news is. You know, like a bat fucks a mongoloid and they have a princess or something. You know,
Yeah.
but we're not going to get that dumb. There's a lot of good topics coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that Gina has a portrait of Sacha Baron Cohen behind her. Yes, Borat. She says no. She says it's Freddie Mercury. I'm saying Sacha Baron Cohen, or maybe Dan Severin, close personal friend of mine, Al Snow. I'm thinking, see all those file cabinets? She got files of shit of what's going to go on. So I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'm sure you'd like to thank everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I'm going to have you every week. Well, I'm not
I
going to have you every week. I mean, we're both married. We've covered this
Yeah.
bullshit before, but we're going to be back next week. Next week is the Statue of Liberty.
A recent October 2023 lawsuit was lost that was brought by architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth against the National Institute of Standards and Technology over NIST's report on the destruction of World Trade Center Building 7 on September 11, 2001. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit ruled that AE 911 Truth doesn't have standing in our case against NIST and has claimed that federal agency reports are not required to be accurate or scientifically sound as long as they meet statutory requirements.